Welcome to the CI Tools webinar. My name is Josh Osborne and I'm the Product Manager for the CI Tools here at Central Innovation. And this is a weekly webinar that we run to talk about stuff to do with the CI Tools. At the moment we are going through the Doors and Window tool. Last week we took a bit of a break to have a look at some new rooms that we had put into the Fit Out tool and an update recently. But before that we had started in on the basics of the Windows and Doors. So today we're going to look a little bit more at Windows and Doors, in particular how to work with styles for Windows and Doors. So that's mainly what we're going to be looking at today. However, if you have any questions about anything, either if it's to do with Windows and Doors or just if it's to do with the CI Tools in general, please enter those in the chat panel as we go. And I'll either try to answer those online or get back to you after the webinar has finished to talk to you about it instead. If you've got a topic idea for a future webinar as well, that would be most welcome. Again, just enter it through the chat panel or send it through to us on the support desk. Excuse me. On the support desk, and that'll make its way to me. But yeah, always keen to find out what kind of things people want to know about. So if you have any suggestions, please send those through. But yes, as I say, we are looking at the Doors and Windows tool, and particularly we're looking at styles with the Doors and Windows tool. Just to back up a little step from that, what are styles and why might you want to use them? You probably already are familiar with favorites in ArchiCAD. You can use those. For most elements in ArchiCAD, including our Doors and Windows. There's no reason not to use favorites without Windows and Doors. The reason that we use styles is specifically so that it allows you to have more granular control over what is available. So you can have a style that defines certain parts of the window and then have a different style that defines other parts of it. So for instance, you could have a style that defines the shape and then a second different style that defines the frame, and those can be separate and independent of each other but included as one piece. So you can sort of mix and match. It also allows you to do something called using type codes or size codes, which we will look at once we've had a look at types as well, because styles as well, because these are related to each other quite heavily. So where you find styles in the Windows and Door tool is in the Configuration tab. So if I open up either the window or door, and I am going to be using ArchiCAD 28 today, but there's nothing that we're going to look at today to do with styles that is not available also in 28, 27, and 26. So if you're using a slightly older version, this still applies. Let's just reset to the default window because that one's horrible. There we go. So we've got a nice rectangular window. And if we click on our menu flyout here, we're going to go to Configuration. And this will give us the sort of the top level detail about the window itself. So you can see we've got a bunch of fields at the moment that say custom. These are our style settings. So you can see we've got custom settings at the top, that's our style, and then size below it, that's our snap sizing or our type coding or our size coding or whatever you call that thing. That's what this size part here is. So we'll look at those in detail in a little bit. But further on, we also have the code mentioned here. Again, we don't have anything set here yet, but this defines how the code will be displayed so that you can label it or anything like that you might want to do. And then over on the right, we've got information about the manufacturer that you can enter as well, which might be useful again for having for labeling purposes or something like that. So styles, first thing we need to do is choose a style to apply. You can create your own styles and we'll look at that shortly, but what we're going to start with is we're going to choose one of the existing styles. At the moment we have a bunch of Australian styles built into the tool, so we're going to select one of those. So we open up the tree, we find the manufacturer that we want, and then we find the window that we want. So let's have a casement, and we'll choose the OX single casement and fixed. And as soon as we apply that, you see that the new configuration settings come in here. Now you'll notice that the sizing of the window did not change at all, and this is one of the advantages of using styles over favorites, is that the style is applying the structure and setout of the window, but it's not actually going to overwrite any of your settings that you've made here. So you can apply any style to any size of window and it will just do its thing. If the window isn't big enough to handle the style that it's in. It'll just place as much of it that it can, but essentially you don't need to worry about your width and height. Those can be set independently of the style that you select. So now we can see we've got OX, single casement and fixed light selected, and as soon as we did that, you will notice that a bunch of these fields have grayed out now. And essentially what this is telling us is now that we are using a style, all of these settings are now locked because we've said we want to use the thing that is part of the style. We can't deviate from that and still be saying that we're using this style. Therefore, these are all locked and are uneditable. So these have been preset. So the way that this works at the moment is that we are defining the code as the C, which in this case configuration is DC. So you can see our DC here. Then we've got a dash for the height and width, which we don't have defined in our snap sizes yet. And then we've got another dash to show M, and M is the value mirrored status, and it will show a LX for the default placement or an XR for mirrored. So that's where DC-LX has come from, is it's a combination of those factors. And you can see we've also preset the manufacturer, the range, and the description over here as well. Now we can go through and we can choose different styles if we like. We can swap to OXO instead, and you'll see that applies. Again, it doesn't touch the size of the window or any other part of the window really. It's just the setout and the configuration here. And you can see that we now have slightly different settings down here. So we're still using the same configuration type because it's the casements, but we now have a slight variation on the mirrored status here, LXR or RXL. And all of the styles that we have built in there by default will have presets for all of these. And if you make your own, you can set yours as well. So now that we've chosen our style, we can go through and do anything that we normally would want to do with our window or door. So you can go through all of the other settings pages. You'll see that some of them are grayed out, and that is because those are things that are defined by the style. So for instance, as I mentioned, we don't touch the overall size of the window because that is something that you get to define and it's not part of the style. So you can still adjust those settings here. But over on the layout here, where we adjust the setout of things like top row height and that sort of thing, that is defined by the style. So these are all locked. That's why those are showing grayed out there at the moment. As we go through, you'll see other ones that are grayed out as well. We can't change the shape or anything like that because again, that's part of the style we have selected. Same with the glazing panel layout. And then snap sizing, we'll look at it in a bit. And then when we come to frame, you'll see that this is grayed out as well because this is part of the style, but framing is actually its own sub-style. So you can see that it's using a style called sliding, which is defined at the top here. We can't change that because using that style is part of the over-the-top style that we're using. But if we cancelled using that style, we could edit these again. So any of these fields, we can go back and we can say, actually, I don't want to use a style anymore. I want to be able to modify these by just hitting the custom button. And now we're into completely freeform. You can do whatever you want mode. It still saves the changes that we made. So it will still look like the style, but we can now go back in here and say, actually, this frame should use the style premium instead of sliding. And then it will allow us to do that. And these still stay grayed out because, again, we're using a style here. But the same as before, if we want to define these manually, so we decide actually we don't want to use this sub-style here, we can hit custom and that frees those up as well. So you can sort of mix and match parts in and out that way. And you'll see that now that we're in custom mode, everything that was grayed out before is editable again. All right, so let's go back to our style. Go with OXO. And we'll place this one down and then have a look. Okay, so we've got our window placed here, 1200 by 1500. That's what size we set it to, so that's fine. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to apply some snap sizings to it. So this is the sizing of the window. So from the size box here, we just open the flyout, similar to what we did with the style, and then we choose the size code that we want. So we'll go with 14 here, and then we're going to choose 14 by 24. And as soon as we do that, that then modifies the size of the window. So you can see that this has changed now, and this has been changed to fit what has been preset in this size style. You will have noticed while we're in there, there's a couple of other options. So we've got 14 by 18, 21, the 24 that we have selected, and 27. So now if I hit OK on this one and save it, we are now in snap size mode or size style mode, and that means that we are restricted to those sizes that are contained in the snap group that we chose. So at the moment we're showing 2410 by 1372. If I resize this window down to the smallest I can, let's go to 200 wide, you will see that it doesn't do that. It doesn't resize down to 200 wide, and the reason why is because 200 is not one of the allowable sizes in the snap sizing. It's gone down to 1810 by 1372, so it's the same height, but we've got a narrower width. And if I open my settings back up again, you can see the reason why is because it's dropped to the narrowest available size type, which here is 14 by 18. And that's what we're seeing there. So 1810 by 1372, that is the sizing specified in the size style 14 by 18. So this gives us a good way of placing a window down and allowing us to still resize it to whatever we want, but restricting those sizes that we go to be the ones that are actually available in the catalog of whoever the manufacturer is or something like that. Now, of course, as with before, if we want to get rid of that part, we can go to custom size. So essentially we're saying we don't want to use snap sizes anymore, and then we can resize down to whatever size we want, and it'll do whatever we tell it to. So you can still turn off that option at any point, but it's very handy if you want to stick to specific available sizes, that you can come in here and just choose the size sizing that you want. It will set that sizing, and then we can resize this to whatever size we think fits into where we are, and it will just change to whatever the closest available size type is for us. So this can be really useful. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to edit some of these styles, and we're going to create some of our own as well. I'm just going to quickly check and see if we've got any questions before we move on though. So just sit tight. All right, looks like no questions at this stage, so let's move on. So now that we have applied a style to our windows and doors, the next thing you're going to want to do is either make your own styles or edit some of the styles that are already there, and this is relatively easy for us to do. So you will have noticed that as I was pressing the custom button before to put us into I can do what I want mode, there's also a button right next to it saying edit, and this will do a similar thing. So it puts us into I can do whatever I want mode, but once we save, after doing that, it will modify the style to be what we wanted. So we could go through and we can say that actually this OXO, let's go into edit mode, everything becomes ungrayed as before. You can see that the height and width are still locked because we're still using a size code, but our style is unlocked now. So we could go through and we could say actually this particular one, it should be an arch top. Change back to configuration and save that. And now if we go and choose a different style, single casement and fixed light, we can switch back to the one we just modified, which I realize now I've forgotten which it was. I think this one should have an arch top now, which it does. So we can quickly and easily edit these without having to worry about making sure that you've remembered to reset everything that was there. It just modifies the settings that are already part of the style, so you don't need to sort of mess around with applying a certain style and then changing part of it and then resaving over the top or anything like that you might need to do with a favorite. It's just nice and easy. You just hit edit, make the change, and then hit save, and you're done. So that allows us to quickly and easily edit any of our styles. We can also create our own styles as well. So if we hit the custom box here, let's pretend that we've made the changes that we want. We can come in here and we can save our own style. So we can call this one test style 1. Once we have some text in this box here, a button will pop up saying save as a style. We click that button and we now have a style called test style 1. So if I open out this tree here, you'll see that we have the AUS folder, and then we also have test style 1. We can also go through and we can actually, let's just edit that one. We can make changes here, so we could say make a change to the name, and we'll save that. And you can see we now have a folder called test group and then test style 1. So we just separated that by putting a colon in between the two pieces of text, and that creates a folder structure for us. So you can quite easily set up a folder for, say, the manufacturer or the range that you want or something like that. And you can go as deep as you want to go in on that as well. So we could say test group, test style 1. Whoops, I waited for too long on that one. Test folder 1, save that. And now we have test group, test folder 1, test style 1. So you can keep going down as far as you need to. I think 3 folders is probably as much as you'd ever want. You have the manufacturer, the line, and then the preset itself. The style itself. But yeah, you can build up as much as you need to there. So you can go through and essentially get a catalog from a manufacturer and just make up all of the styles that they have available. And once you have that in your ArchiCAD template that you use in your office, at any point you can choose any window or door from that manufacturer's catalog by selecting this. And you know that everything is pre-set up and everything will be the sizing and everything that you want it to be. Obviously, it's a little bit of work to do all of that. But as with anything like this, like getting a good template and that sort of thing, if you put in a bit of work at the beginning, it makes your life much easier later on down the line, because everyone in your office is going to be able to use any of these windows and doors and just don't have to worry about, say, resizing it and making sure that it fits what's in the catalog anymore or anything like that. So it can be very versatile and very useful, especially for larger offices, and especially for in cases where you are buying off specific models of windows and doors. We can do the same sort of thing with size styles as well. So you can see our style available here, and we can choose one of the size styles there. But if we go down to here and go to snap sizes, that will let us define our own snap sizes. So if we click here, you'll see that this comes up here. It looks a little bit intimidating to begin with, but I'll explain what we're looking at here. So starting over on the top left, we've got widths here. And if I open that up, we've got heights and also exclusions. So all of the size codes that are available, as you saw before, we're showing as width times height. So at the moment, we've got widths of 18, 21, 24, and 27. And if I go back to here, you can see that 18, 21, 24, and 27 available in each of my height groupings. So it's grouped by the heights, and then the widths follow in this sort of subgroup of those. 18, 21, 24, and 27 is what we have available in all of them now. This is the other way to get to snap sizes, by the way. It's also in the menu, or you can just click this button here. So you can see that that's where those widths come from here. And if I change to heights, you'll see those top level numbers there. So 9, 10, 12, 14, 15, 18 FH, and 21 FH. You'll notice when I'm looking at these, they also have a number to the left of them. That's essentially just the index number of this of the snap size. Is not actually part of the sizing itself, so you can essentially ignore that. It's just defining the order of these numbers here. And then you can see next to the numbers, we have the actual value that it contributes. So we were using, I think we were using 14 before. Oh, it's placed at the moment, yeah. 1457 here. So we were using 15, that's right, we changed it midway through. So we were choosing 15, and what 15 divides the size as is 1457. So this is just something that has been entered by whoever created this preset as what the manufacturer specifies that unit height to be in this case. And if I go back to widths, you can see that, for instance, what do we got at the moment? 1810. Oh, we resized that down to the smallest. So 18 is the smallest, and its width is set to 1810. So that's available there. And then we also have the panel widths. So because we have panels inside this particular snap sizing, it defines the panel width for them as well as 605. Now, below these settings here, we also have a way to auto-generate a list. So first of all, I'll look at how we can modify these manually, and then we'll look at auto-generating some. So I'm just going to pop back up to configuration because we have a size selected at the moment, so that means they're all locked up. We can't modify them at the moment. So I'm going to change to custom, and I'm going to change to custom here as well. And then we'll jump back into snap sizes, and now we can modify any of those so that we can make changes to this list. So let's say that, first of all, I'll show you how this works. So because this interface has been written in GDL, it can't exactly work the way that you might expect. But what we're looking at here is we've got a move up and move down button that will choose the ordering. So this is where you might click and drag something. The way that you do it using this is that you select the one that you want to move, and then you move it up and down using the arrows here. So we could say 4, select that one, and then move it up to 2. Up to the top, like that, or whatever we wanted to do. So you can restructure the list using those controls, and then the plus and minus buttons just insert and remove types as well. So we could go down to the bottom here and say, actually, I want to add another one. This one's going to be code 29, and the width value for it is going to be 2875, and the default panel width will be 800. So now we have a 5th width type code here, and then we can do the same with heights. We can go in here and we can say, actually, height size 9 is too small, that's not made anymore or something. We can delete that, and then we can go through and say, actually, after 15 but before 18, we want to add in a 16, and we'll make that 1570. And we've got 0 set for the bottom panel because we're not using those, but if you were doing bottom panel sizes, you would put that into the height setting here. And then we can go back up to configuration, and you'll see the new snap size setting. So we've got 14, 15, and the new 16 value here. The ones that we deleted are gone. And if I open this one out, you'll also see the new one that we added, which I can't remember what it was now, actually. I think it's 29. This one here has been added, so that will be showing in all of those. And if I select 16 by 29 and hit OK, you'll see those values that I set. So 2650 by 1457 is ready to go now. So you can make your own snap sizes that way. The other way is that you can generate a list of them using the controls on the left here. So if you have a very large amount of them and you don't want to go through and define them all manually, we can just do that. At the moment, it's set up to do increments of 86. The limit is 300, so that's the smallest, and the max is 2400. Let's just adjust this to 150 so it's nice and easy to see what it's actually doing. So we're starting at 300 and we're going up to 2400. We hit the generate button and it will just do that for us. So you can see it has gone through and made codes for everything and then entered values according to the rules that we gave it. So starting at 300 was the minimum, then it has added 150, so we got 450, 600, etc., all the way down to 1650. And if we keep going down, they go off the bottom of the list here, so we have to click here to see the rest. All the way down to 2400 is the biggest that we have, which is what we have defined there. So that's just a nice easy way to make a big list of them if they all sort of have an even spacing. And now this was just used to generate the list. You can still add additional values manually if you need to though. So if you decide that you actually want there to be a 4C, we can go in here and just go add and say this one's called 4C and it should be 500. And that one's ready to go now. So we've just added it like normal and that works as normal. But you can add those on top of a generated list. The generating is just creating it for us. It's not locked to that generated list or anything like that. And now you'll be able to see that we have our 4C available as well as everything else that auto-generated. We didn't auto-generate on the widths though, so those are untouched. Those are still using that list that we had before. So you can quite easily, using a combination of the overall style and the snap sizings, you can essentially build up a whole catalog of windows and doors, and it will just make it that you and anyone else using your project that has these in it just never has to think about doing any of this anymore. The other thing that you can do with these, which will be essential if you're wanting to do them across multiple projects, is that you can manipulate the styles via the menu as well. So if you go to Ci Tools, Doors and Windows, and go to the Joinery Styles Manager, you'll see a list of all the styles here. So we were looking at Windows before, so we go in here and scroll down to the bottom. You'll see the one that we made, and we can select any of these and see what is going on with them. So you can see some of the settings of how they work, the different heights and shapes and that sort of thing that are available. And from here we can also hit export to export all of these styles. It will export a .styles file, no, .presets file, I believe, and then in any other project that you want these all in, you just do the same, come into here and press the import button, and that will bring them all in, and you effectively have all of those styles ready to go. The last thing that I want to show you with these is the other option that you might have noticed here is reapply joinery styles. So what this does is that, let's say you have two windows placed next to each other. Let's just create a copy of this one. So we've got two windows next to each other, and they are both using, they're both not using a style. So let's set them to use test style 1. Okay. Test style 1. Now, what can happen here is that we could make a change to the style, and we want that change to flow through to all of the selected joinery items. So we could come in here and we could say we're going to edit this style. We'll make it something easy to spot. So we'll say that the shape actually should be stepped. Nice and easy. Go back up to configuration and we'll save that change. So this preset now is still called test style 1, but it has a step top instead of an arch top. But this other window here is essentially out of sync now because it doesn't know that we've made a change to that. If we hit OK here, it is going to make the change because it has read the setting that we did, but with the way that the window is placed right now, if I go show marquee, you'll see that the window itself doesn't yet know that we've made that change. Now, obviously, you could manually go through and select all of your windows and doors and just open the settings and hit OK. But the other option is you can go to Ci Tools, Doors and Windows. We have to do it from the floor plan. Doors and Windows, reapply joinery styles, and it will go through and it will do that for us. And then if I go back to 3D, and if I go back to 3D, did it not work because I didn't have it selected? Excuse me. Select my windows and doors. Reapply joinery styles. There we go, I didn't have it selected, sorry. So it will allow us to do that. So you can still continue to make changes. You could even make changes in a different project, import those changes into this project, and then hit the reapply styles button, and it will bring them all into line with whatever changes you've made. So again, it can be quite powerful once you get up and running with using these styles, especially across all of the projects in your office or something like that. All right, I'm just going to quickly check and see if we have any other questions before we finish up. All right, looks like no further questions today. So thanks everyone for joining. I hope that made some amount of sense. I would love to hear from any of you who have set up styles or are thinking of setting up styles as to how that goes for you, if it does what you expect it to do, if it's useful, that sort of thing. Please let us know just by emailing the support desk. And again, if you have any further questions about what we saw today, or if you have any suggested topics for webinars, please send those through to us at nz.support@ci